Welcome, everybody. As I said, as said earlier, muggy New York, so hope you are staying cool today. And we'll start off with some exciting stuff here. We have a great panel for you today. So before we get started, quickly wanted to get all of us situated, right? So Amazon Q, you have all heard, like this was something that we had launched in November last year, and then GA'd just quarter back here. And as we are getting started, we have some very interesting stories to share and very interesting insights to share from none other than our really esteemed panel here, partners who have been really in the throes of it from the very beginning, something that we have been taking very much a lot of pride in, working with our partners, understanding what the signals are from the market, from what they are seeing, and doing it collaboratively, working with them to kind of really unlock the value for our customers. And as we go through the conversations today, I would like you to focus on the overall trajectory of how we, along with our partners, are embarking on this really journey that is just a lot of potential, a lot of early wins and successes that we want to build on and lay the foundation on. So be on and I'm sure as you will have questions for this panel, we'll hopefully whet your appetite with the conversations going in. So with that, I'll introduce the panel. We have Krishna Mohan, who is the Vice President of AI Cloud at TCS. Krishna and followed by Stephanie Pace. Stephanie is the Global Director for the AI ML Cloud GTM practice at Quantify. We have Aaron Gill, the CEO of All Cloud, and we have Dr. Ryan Rees, who is the Chief Data Scientist at Mission Cloud. And I'll have Krishna, you start off with introducing a little bit more about TCS and what it does around AI and specifically what you're doing with Amazon Q as well, and then we'll get started with the conversations. So let's go through the round of introductions.
Yeah, thank you.
You should be okay.
Okay. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you for having me on this panel, along with the esteemed panel here, participants. I think TCS, working very closely with AWS on AI. I'm part of AI Cloud unit within TCS, so bringing the power of AI and cloud together to serve our customers. The journey itself of AI, especially fueled by generative AI for the last 18 months or so, has been very good, encouraging. I think the exploration and experimentation has been what the prime for the last 18 months or so. But for the last one quarter, we're actually seeing slowly productionizing, and where the customers, wherever they can see the value. So a path to production is where our focus is. And of course, we're working very closely with you from the Code Whisperer days to Amazon Q. Looking forward to discuss few of the challenges as well as the success stories of implementation of Amazon Q. Thank you.
So Quantify is a born-in-the-cloud SI. 11 years ago when we were founded, we really focused in on AI ML, knowing it was going to be a transformational technology. So we've been excited to partner with AWS for the last 8 years. We have 15 different competencies, including being the only North America partner to have both the services and solutions Gen AI competency. And we obviously lean in heavily into the AI ML technologies that AWS has, including SageMaker, SageMaker Clarify, all the way through to Bedrock, and of course, Amazon Q.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So All Cloud, in a couple of words, is also born in the cloud AI, at GSI. We operate in 7 different countries around the world, and what makes us unique a little bit in this world is that our focus is AWS, and in the hyperscalers world, it's predominantly AWS, but we also are a Salesforce partner. So you'll hear me speak about use cases that are relevant to tie these two together, and they are related to the world of sales. We see use cases in the world of development, in the world of professional services and such. We've been part of the Gen AI launch competency and have seen Q from inception and before it's actually come out to GA. And like Quantify, we see a lot of work in the world of AI more broadly than just Amazon Q, as described in SageMaker, Bedrock, and have already seen some use cases that are in production today in that world.
Hey everyone, Mission Cloud is a premier AWS partner. We mainly focus in North America, and we're one of the top 3 in Gen AI and build out some of the most complex solutions. Many of them have been talked about and shared by AWS on various platforms. So it's been a pretty exciting 18 months for us as we've really shown what you can do with Gen AI, and then we've been working with Q and showing the things you can do with Q as well. So it's been a pretty interesting, basically Q came out in December, so 6-ish months of trying to figure out what use cases you can use, Q for developer, Q for QuickSight, Q for business, right? It's got a lot of different flavors.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the introductions. I think you keyed it up very well, Ryan, because when we talk about Q, we talk about it in different flavors. I think there's Q for developer, there's Q for business. These are our main offerings, and then QuickSight and Connect and so on. So you can keep kind of looking at how to really insert into various business use cases and scenarios. And so one of the key things that we are discovering over the course of the last 6+ months, as you alluded to, Ryan, has been the adoption and how it is creating an impact for the customers, which are the use cases where our partners are seeing traction, they're seeing excitement, they're seeing successes. And to Krishna, your point, right, where you are focused on taking it to production, we all are, right? I mean, we want to see the impact and have it manifest in the customer. So I'll start with the customer-centric question around where do we see this value being created, and what are your early reads into where value is being created with customers and what Q's promises and how you are seeing it adopted. And so, Krishna, I'll start with you. You are looking at the I'll try to kind of anchor you into the enterprise space first and see really there's a vast kind of use case landscape there. Where are you seeing traction around Q and just general Gen AI in general?
Yeah. I think, as I said, the exploitation, maybe not the right positive word, but harnessing the power of Gen AI, a lot of customers basically looked at trying out all the areas, right? I mean, we are working with customers who basically say that, we have 3,000, 4,000 use cases. So in the initial stages, they went to every LOB and basically said, you go ahead and find out what are the use cases that you can actually develop. So each LOB had a budget, central organizations had a budget. So they have arrived at thousands of use cases. And now the focus is how do I prioritize them and how to deploy them in production. So during this experimentation phase, we have seen a lot of use cases both on IT side. I think that is given that anything on productivity, not only on the SDLC, and even on complete operations, definitely is one of the key things that we see everywhere. There's attraction, including, of course, Amazon Q as well. Now, from an LOB's perspective, we are seeing any horizontal processes like a sales or a marketing or a finance and HR is another set that we actually see. And the third set we see is very specific industry focus. We are working with one of the large pharmaceutical company of what is the role of generative AI and including Q to, for regulatory filings, faster regulatory filings, helping some drug discovery. Can it actually play a role? The way I see it is no enterprise-wise, especially on the business side use case, can only be solved by generative AI. It's a combination of AI and generative AI. And we see those specific industries, customer segmentation in the retail sector. Interestingly, manufacturing, a lot of plant automation and maintenance. Can there be a solution of AI and generative AI combination? So these are the places that we actually see. Complete any customer success, customer experience like airlines and all of that. So these are the three categories that we actually see the adoption, and for each of them, Amazon Q has been deployed in pilots in these three categories, and now we're actually productionizing as well for our large Fortune 500 customers.
Oh, that's lovely to see. So you're already seeing some traction there, and you're talking production. I like that word a lot, and then you will hear it a lot as well. We love production, right? So that's where the real value is created. So Stephanie, I'll move to you and ask you have been AI ML competency early adopter there, and then as you have seen the evolution with Gen AI, you are part of that as well. And by the way, all our partners are here on the panel are part of those competencies. What has changed? Like, what are you seeing value being created with Amazon Q in terms of how you as a partner for us have been kind of looking at customer landscapes and saying, okay, now these are the places where you are seeing traction of Amazon Q, and what both those challenges, but the impact potential is that you are really honing in.
Sure thing. So Quantify was a pilot partner for Amazon Q. So we leaned in pretty heavily into using it in our own organization first. And where we really saw incredible value was around pre-sales in using Q apps. So being able to do app modernization just that much more quickly. In fact, we had a look at the data points and found that there was a 20% increase in the pre-sales process by harnessing Amazon Q apps and being able to then focus our people on higher value work and functions rather than sort of kind of the standard. That obviously then translated into our sales teams, who also then saw a 20% increase in productivity when working with customers that are very often, if we speak in terms of customer value, it's the integration with QuickSight and obviously Connect. So obviously we've seen massive Connect uptick. A lot of people are very excited about it, and they want the capability to be able to integrate something like a generative AI queue into their sort of Connect platform. So that's where we're really seeing value. The challenge when encountering customers is sometimes they're not Gen AI ready. They may have Connect, they may have QuickSight, but they're not potentially Gen AI ready. So we've really been working with customers on building out their data journey and their data roadmap to get Gen AI ready. The other thing is we have seen the market segment into builders and buyers. So there's the folks that want to build their own generative AI capabilities, and then there are buyers, and those are ones that want swift time to value. They want easy integrations with those aforementioned technologies or solutions. And Amazon Q plays a very important role in satisfying the need in the market to have a buy solution and kind of create that quicker time to value rather than building on their own.
Oh, that's a good angle. I had not thought of it that way. So thanks for introducing that vocabulary into this conversation. So it's as customers do go into this buying cycle, like what differentiates? You talked about readiness of the customer to adapt it. Is there something that what are the signals you are seeing in terms of who does building versus who does buying and who is ready to kind of, everybody's wanting to experiment, as Krishna was mentioning as well. So what is it that differentiates it for you in terms of the signals? The
differentiation is around how much customization the customer wants. That's really the focal point. There's also concern about owning the IP. So that's another differentiator. So when we actually go through a decision matrix on whether we should do a custom AI ML project or this is a sort of preferred use case for Amazon Q with the customer, we actually look at both of those before deciding what is the right thing for that customer. It may be Bedrock with customization, SageMaker, etc., or it may be the easy time to value of Q because they want a specific integration that Amazon Q already has.
Got it. No, thank you. So I think, is this, as we go into this, right, I mean, I'll go to Aaron next to, and yeah, he already has his mic. So Aaron, I'll take a little bit of a different track with you. You heard it. You feel free to kind of add to what has already been said. But then I would also like you to comment a little bit on, you're sitting on a global business, and you yourself personally are involved across the pond as well, right? So what differences do you see? What challenges are different? Like, how do you see the customer landscape differing in those international markets as well? And then specifically to kind of build on to what has been already said, what are the things where you see the application really ready to go? Like, customers are ready to apply Q, and you see the use case really ripe for Q, and you can talk about it both in terms of the developer as well as the business.
Absolutely. So couple of thoughts. First, to build on what Stephanie said, customers aren't necessarily all ready to jump into the AI world, predominantly Gen AI, even though it's the most common term now used by them, and they would like to explore it. So one of the things that we always do at the first sort of conversation is we try to assess their use cases and help them just analyze what is relevant and what is not, and then understand how ready are they in order to do so. And what's interesting about that, and related to the global nature of our business, is that we operate both in North America and predominantly in the US. We have some Canadian customers, and we see customers across the pond from Israel to the mainland Europe. And it's been very obvious and clear to us this year as we saw North America pick up on whether they are ready or not, the journey to become ready and apply Gen AI or AI broadly to their business and in production, not just in POCs or trying to just pilot different technologies. Whereas in Europe, there's a lot more scrutiny over data privacy and data sovereignty, and even in Israel, obviously, for the obvious reasons. And so the adoption is slower. North America has always been quicker to adopt these technologies anyway. I've been in the cloud ecosystems now for nearly 17 years, starting in 2008 in a business very similar to what we do today. And North America has always been the early adopters, the North American clients. Similar patterns are now seen in the world of AI, where you're seeing customers abroad being very cautious, very careful, they'd like to see others do it before they actually step into it in production, and not even in production. And they are also less ready in terms of being able to apply technologies like Gen AI. So their data journey is very nascent. It's probably in the very early stages, if at all. And those are the vast differences that we're seeing, and they are vast. They're significant in terms of adoption. In terms of the use cases, though, that we're seeing, as I described before, we have this unique position in the marketplace where, even though we're global in nature, we're still rather a smaller organization that could see and could work collaboratively between AWS and Salesforce. And we're seeing a lot of use cases in two core areas. One in the sales organizations, similar to what was described internally for Quantify. We also did it internally first, but we also talked to our customers about applying it in their sales organizations, and they have used it for being able to create efficiencies. I know that's the sort of term of the day, but it is about creating efficiencies and getting to data sooner, quicker, and being able to resolve problems for customers sooner and quicker. Similarly, in the professional services world, where Salesforce also has a big foothold and a large footprint, we see that as well. And the combination of the two actually brings a lot of value to customers in terms of these organizations being able to serve customers sooner, being able to give them the solution they're looking for quicker than in prior years or prior years before technologies like Gen AI were applied.
No, and that's perfect. And I'll actually ask Ryan to comment a little bit on the aspect of use cases. We heard a few terms pop up when we talk about use cases. We saw sales and generally productivity as the reasons they're adopting. We also had a kind of quite a consensus around readiness of the customer, like a lot of data work needs to be done to really create the plumbing, which will allow them to kind of move faster on these use cases. What, Ryan, are you seeing from Mission Cloud perspective in terms of use cases? Are there any differences? Like, are you seeing anything different? Are you seeing certain industries better served at having the appetite? Or is it mostly these horizontal capabilities which are like sales? Everybody wants and uses that. So what's anything different you would add?
Yeah, so the big thing when you look at Gen AI is there's massive numbers of use cases out there, and we've probably worked on it. I classify them into about 15 different classes, and some of these can be fit by Q and others aren't gonna be there, right? You know, you have Q for QuickSight, which can do your generative BI workloads, which a lot of people are really getting into now, right? Can I ask questions to my data? And you know, we can go down the sales path, but excuse me, people are looking at, can I ask, hey, what was my sales in this region, or what's my profit across this particular region, right? Those are all questions you can ask in QuickSight Q. And then when you look at Q for Business, you know, it's really a RAG-based chatbot at the end of the day, right? And so that's one of these 15 use cases that we see, and it comes down to, you know, what data am I putting in there? And as they mentioned, data readiness is a big piece there. And so with Q, it comes with, you know, 40 different data connectors, I think right now, that you can connect to various things, you know, Salesforce being one of them, but also just your G Drive and other stuff. So you can ask questions to your own knowledge base and really pull out questions. So at Mission, you know, we do tier 1 and tier 2 support, and, you know, we have Q set up so that people can come in and ask a question. Hey, you know, the customer has this problem, what's the solution, right? And so our people are able to ask that question in Q. And one of the things, you know, a while back, Amazon launched, you know, an app maker with Gen AI, which is basically the interface that you get for Q for Business. So you can go in and quickly create apps, right? And so that's where you're looking at all these different business sectors are looking at, hey, I can come in, I can write some prompts for what I need, and then I can publish it as an app, and then people can use that Gen AI-based app for all the different parts of their business. So it becomes a really powerful tool for this RAG-based chatbot where you can make very specific prompts as an application that can then be used and proliferated across the organization. And so it can be really valuable, and that's where we see a lot of organizations are looking at, hey, how do I increase the efficiency of my different departments, right? HR is a classic use case for this tooling, right? Most HR people are inundated with things like, you know, it just came up last week. Do I have the 5th off, right? You know, July 4th fell on a Thursday. Everyone wants to know, is the 5th a company holiday? And so they're hitting HR all the time, right? Hey, can I do this? But if you have Q set up, people can ask that question to Q, and now your HR team's able to do other HR activities instead of answering the same question or figuring out somewhere to publish, you know, in your main chat or, you know, an email that says, yes or no, you have the 5th off, right? Like you can just go and find it. And so, you know, HR has tons of use cases. And then, you know, like I said, the tier 1 support. And then there's other things that you can do, right? The marketing copy, right? You can drop that into Q and ask it to comment or edit on things. You know, there's all kinds of use cases that are RAG-based that, you know, Q is really designed for. And then we haven't even touched on it, but, you know, a lot of people are using Q for Developer, right? Come in, asking, hey, how can I write this function? Or, hey, can you show me, you know, an outline of how I'd make this particular code elements for an application to do this and stuff like that. So we're seeing a lot of people on our development teams using Q for Developer to really help them code and increase their efficiency in the coding realm. So we see, you know, those are just the kind of Q use cases, and then there's tons of use cases that Bedrock, you know, you've got to look at as Bedrock the main piece that you go to build out, you know, other use cases. But as far as, you know, chatbots and code development, you know, Q is perfect for those.
I'll change track. So thank you. I think, look, I think the key is that there's a lot of interest, there is a lot of traction, as you're already seeing. You're seeing various degrees of adoption. You are seeing some use cases pop up very regularly versus some are, you are you're getting them ready for that. So as you go through this journey for yourselves as well as for your customers, how are you working with AWS? Like, what is the partnership look like? How is this challenges and support that you need as you're building this business up? What is AWS's role that you see, and where should we be focused on to kind of help make sure that you are set up for success and our customers are set up for success? What is it that is working? What is it that you need more?
Yeah, I mean, AWS is very customer and partner focused, right? So, we have a whole team of people, our PDMs and PSAs and all that when you have questions, they quickly find the answers and work with the right teams to get help. And so, we work closely with the Bedrock team all the time, improving agents and everything else that are being pushed out there. So we have weekly meetings often with them to help develop the solution and help work with them on, hey, what are customers needing? What do we need as a partner to enable these customers to get these kind of tools and applications working? And so it's a very close partnership between AWS and their partners to make sure we're able to build what we need and then push it out there. And then those things that the partners are seeing, because usually we're much further along than customers, are then rolled into the main tools so that all the customers then get the benefit of where the partners kind of pioneered the trail. And so you really see a symbiotic relationship between the two of us to really make the AWS services and tools better.
So Aaron, as you comment on that as well, I would love to kind of understand, like, what are the challenges and what are the things that you believe are things that we need to collectively address. And I'll also call out the aspect that you mentioned, Ryan, which is around getting the support and getting the specialized kind of engagement, right, with AWS. I think we are all invested in those, making sure that the knowledge base is there, we are sharing and learning together in these early days. And as we are doing that with our technical as well as specialized services, we would also kind of love, one of you should kind of focus your answer on how the GTM is working as well, in terms of like marketplace and other ways we really go to market together, if that is working and what we need to do differently there. But Aaron, you can kick us off on some of the challenges we are seeing that we should be looking at together.
Yeah, I think first I'll start by saying the relationship with Amazon, I think Ryan said it well, it's very tight, it's very close. Ourselves, we actually are managed by a global PDM, which helps us also on a regional basis. We have separate PDMs and PSAs, and they're all dedicated to our work, which is rather unique if you think of sort of the size and scale of some of our organizations and the partners in these ecosystems. For an organization like AWS to dedicate a resource like that, that's pretty unique. As it relates to the relationship, I view two sort of paths. One is the technology path. So as a partner, getting access to technologies that AWS is about to release, the services that AWS are about to release earlier than what a customer may see, not even in GA, but rather in a pilot manner or as a tester of it early in the days of still being developed. That's unique. It gives us a lot of insight, and it gives us a lot of ability to provide feedback back to AWS. And I think that's not a regular affair that an organization like AWS brings in, obviously under NDA, partners to actually be part of the journey of developing something ultimately from the use case perspective. And so that's the technology side, and our teams work very, very closely together. And then there's the commercial side, and I think there's two parts to the commercial side. There's the field work, which is how do we actually get customers, and what sort of solutions may customers seek in terms of these particular services. And so it takes time. It takes time because the realization that customers may not be ready is something that you learn only by doing and only by being in the field and actually talking to customers and offering them solutions that are at this particular time in space they could use. And then there's the other piece of the commercial, which is marketplace. And you refer to it, and I think AWS Marketplace is an incredible opportunity for AWS partners, not just the ones that build products, but folks like us that actually deliver services. And it's for awareness, it's for actually being able to be creative and put some of the services online so that people could seek you out or find what they are looking for. And since there are many of us, and in many ways competing with each other, but there are many of us, the offering for the customer at the end of the day, kind of looking at it from the customer obsession perspective, it gives the customer a lot of ability to select the right offering. And so for us, we've now put several Gen AI oriented offerings on the marketplace. We have dozens of them now overall, from a variety of things, from the very basic migrations around on infrastructure all the way through Gen AI services. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, no, thanks. And Stephanie, I think we'll come back in reverse order here. But really, how, as the customers are adopting, you talked about some of the challenges they are really kind of working through to get Gen AI and Q and other technology ready. How is AWS helping you to go to market and go build and develop that market with you?
Sure. So as Aaron mentioned, we obviously partner very closely with the various AWS product teams. So we'll be aligned with Q, we'll give feedback as we go through our own testing. And that's a very important part because obviously AWS likes to be customer obsessed, and that includes partner obsessed. So that's one area where we've been very lucky to have an open and robust dialogue. In terms of go-to-market, we have done a couple things. We have signed a 3-year Gen AI strategic collaboration agreement. So obviously AWS has invested heavily into our success in building out a co-sell or go-to-market motion together. Beyond that, we've also really focused in on AWS's ambition to become vertical specific. Yeah. So we have very, very focused conversations with leaders or even field sales teams about vertical applications of generative AI. So how is legal different to, for instance, manufacturing? Or how is insurance sort of different? So being really laser focused on that. And AWS has encouraged us, and we've responded by building out vertical specific solutions, generative AI solutions, and then putting those on marketplace, which, as you mentioned, is a great route to market for us, and also is then easily accessible, searchable, and what's more is part of that is doing field sales enablement, so that the field sales teams know about those micro solutions and the vertical specific applications of Gen AI. But all of that has really helped us accelerate our co-sell motion together.
Lovely. Krishna, I'll end this segment with you talking more about, like, if you can expand a little bit more about the verticalization in the industry space, and you guys have a lot of practices around those industries. So how are you seeing that? And then I would like you to kind of layer into that conversation a specific customer example that you can kind of use as an illustration of what traction you are seeing and application you are seeing. And then we'll quickly cover the rest of you in terms of examples that you are seeing with your customers.
Yeah, thank you. I think, as you know, we are the global GSI partner of the year. So obviously the relationship is pretty deep. So that has its obvious advantages as well. For example, TCS has trained half of its 600,000 already on Gen AI. And one of the things that we, of course, did is completely on Amazon technologies on AI and Gen AI. Yeah, very much part of what we created, something called AI Experience Zone within TCS. Okay. So 300,000 have access to that environment and get trained, and so that they can serve the customers. I'll probably take a couple of examples. How Amazon helped, and I think the difference of how the engineering culture of AWS actually helps. This is a feedback given by the customer. It's not my customers speak. We were doing one for a large pharmaceutical company based in New York. The challenge that was given to us is on cloud operations. They gave us, asked us to pick up. It's their choice. One is Amazon Q, another is OpenAI, and another is the open source. And they asked us to do a project, the pilot, using all three, and to improve predictability of failures and to reduce the MTTR. So when you think about this is a Fortune 50 customer, the complexity is enormous. It's not just a simple operations thing. And we were working pilots, all three, and Amazon Q, obviously, in this thing, it became the winner. But the reason why it had maximum accuracy in predicting what could potentially fail is also when we were doing, we got stuck with some technical thing, and it was not necessarily analyzing the data well. We picked up a phone and they said, you know what, we need engineering support. And I can tell the best support that we got from AWS, they jumped onto it immediately. The Amazon Q core product team helped us how to fix that. And they didn't talk about, hey, this feature is going to come in the next version, so wait for it 3 months or 6 months, which we normally get. Whereas here, AWS team jumped on, fixed it, provided the help, and then came out, and now we're actually rolling out for this Fortune 50 customer globally.
Oh, wonderful.
That's one example. The second example is on, we were doing for a insurance company. We are sitting in North America, so I'm obviously taking North America examples. They wanted to do mainframe modernization. Again, and this is a company which has more than 100,000 MIPS, and their core business runs on the mainframe. And we are talking about modernizing it and generative AI role in acceleration. All of us know any mainframe modernization is a 3-year, 5-year roadmap. So can we really accelerate it? Again, it's Q, the other ones. And we were comparing, and we were actually doing the pilots. And again, a new area, I mean, you have your own AWS products on mainframe as well. And one of the few things probably less spoken on Amazon Q is also the ability to do migrations. I think the Java migration upgrades that you have and .NET you're going to come up, those things we actually see more and more. Coming back to this mainframe thing, again, same, gave a call, was there to fine-tune it, make sure that it actually works. And we are now talking about expanding it, really implementing and productionizing. So the engineering culture, this is what the customer said, you know what, if a product is not working with AWS, I'm pretty confident they will make it work for me in a specific implementation than asking me to wait for the next release. So I think that fundamentally is the difference, and I think you guys should continue to do that. Coming to the GTM, Gen AI specific GTM motion, I was talking to your leadership. I think you're focusing on Gen AI specific GTM partnership. That's definitely, I think, is going to help further. And we already work with some 3 or 4 main industries, like banking, financial services, what we call it as a customer business, and life sciences, healthcare. Manufacturing is a surprise to me. Because all these other 3 have obviously have had journey on cloud, so they have their data estate slightly better cleaned up, but manufacturing adoption is hardly 5% on cloud. But we are seeing maximum traction in manufacturing, especially in the factory on the floor, what generative AI can actually do, even touching to supply chain a bit as well. So we are rolling out a successful pilot on supply chain using Amazon Q, has gone, now we're rolling out the production to the other geographies as well. It's about inventory, identifying the right inventory where it is. It's an AI and Gen AI solution. So these are the things that we are actually seeing. And marketplace is definitely a great differentiator for AWS. The maturity of the offering in the marketplace is quite distinct. What needs to be done? You have 40 adapters, as Ryan said, please make it 80. Because when you actually implement it in enterprise, I mean, you know, especially when you're looking at enterprise sector, it is as complex as it can get to. Whatever the consolidation, enterprise transformation is happening is not necessarily, not everybody is only uses Salesforce or SAP or Oracle. So that I think, would be great to see.
Lovely. So I think we can talk about use cases all day long. I think that's the most exciting thing. But Stephanie, why don't you kind of get a little bit of flavor of your customer traction, and then we'll go through the rest of it, and then we'll open it up for questions after.
So what's been really interesting is that the assumption in general was that AWS and AI/ML and GenAI was going to focus on efficiency optimizations and reducing costs. What we hadn't anticipated was that Amazon Q actually gave us the opportunity to have a discussion about sales productivity. So one of the use cases that cropped up pretty early on, and we were somewhat surprised but eager to accelerate with our customers, was around I'm going to say giving access to domain-specific information. So I'm not going to mention names, obviously, but we had a perishables distribution company that was looking to, originally they wanted to create efficiency in their distribution and warehouse. And what it actually came to when we worked through the various use cases with them and figured out the ROI was that the best place that they could harness Amazon Q was around putting that application on an iPad or a mobile device and putting it in the hands in salespeople. So the field sales teams for this perishable distributions company could actually have the information about different flavors, profiles, different items that were in stock, what the ETA for international import was, et cetera, when having discussions with customers that ultimately we're looking for a fast turnaround. Beyond that, then there was the ability to not only answer the customer's questions, but there was the ability to then place the order automatically and also give information from like a Salesforce integration about what discussions had been had with the customer previously. So that's been an interesting one and an interesting use case that we've eagerly sort of explored with customers is around creating sales efficiency and optimization and actually driving revenue and improving sales velocity.
No, lovely. No, I think such a rich variety. I think we'll probably stay here for too long if we keep digging into it. So Aaron, I'll turn to you, and then Ryan, you'll take us home.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief here. This is actually a public use case. We've implemented, stepping back, there's a company that, old school technology company, ISV, providing a software for operators of grid operators, electrical grid operators. And we actually came to them, or they seeked the need to SaaSify the product first and foremost. And if you look at ISVs traditionally and when they're on-premise, that's part of the difficulty of transitioning and actually utilizing technologies or services like GenAI or AI more broadly. So we helped them first with that, and then they realized that one of the things that they struggle with is still this very mechanical process of how do they deliver reporting through the software and actually creating those reports for the grids to actually be more, again, as said, the word of the day, but efficient, reducing sort of time for those reporting by the technology or the software for these grids would actually make them more efficient, reduce their downtime and so forth. And so we were able to improve their processes by about 88%, which is a very significant use case in this specific software, and allowed therefore the grid operators to become more efficient themselves.
I guess I'll finish with a recruiting use case. Recruiting is pretty interesting, right? All of us probably have interviewed tons of people, and you don't think about bias, but we all have bias at the end of the day. And so, we were working with a company that was trying to get past that and using queue basically to curate sets of questions given a candidate and, whatever role was open, a set of questions that would be uniform across all candidates. That way you really don't have your interviewees have bias and all that to really try to make it into a much more fair process. So it's pretty interesting use case.
Yeah, no, thank you. And look, I think you can see the variety of use cases. This is just the beginning. I think we are just rolling into this, and I think it's meant to take off, and I think we are seeing a lot of prep work going on. So even for our overall partners, we are seeing that there is a lot of work to be done. And as we build out those data estates and clean up the data and make sure that the interconnectedness is there, right? I mean, you're talking about connectors and how we integrate into these data sources. That is where I think bulk of the plumbing work needs to be happening. And then I think the customers are chomping at the big bits, and you guys are coming up with ingenious ways to kind of go create value for our customers. So thank you for that. It's been exciting. I think we'll have more questions for you, I think, from the audience.